let's just first start with how competent this administration is, all of the people that are being put into roles, how competent they are. Let's start with an interview with Stephen Miller with Jake Tapper. I mean, you can see the disgust in Jake Tapper's face. He's pretty transparent. Listen to this.
How does President Trump make sure that the effort to deport people who are not in this country legally doesn't end up hurting Americans who want safe borders, absolutely, but also don't want to see even more higher prices in groceries?
Well, I mean, I'm sure it's not your position, Jake, you're just asking the question, that we should supply America's food with exploitative illegal alien labor. I obviously don't think that's what you're implying. Only 1% of alien workers in the entire country work in agriculture. The top destination for illegal aliens are large cities like New York, like Los Angeles, and small industrial towns, of course, all across the heartland, as we've seen with the Biden flights. Mm-hmm. None of those illegal aliens are doing farm work. Those 30,000 illegal aliens that Joe Biden dumped into Springfield.
I'm talking about the ones that are.
But I'm explaining this. It's important to understand.
No, you're kind of changing the subject. I mean, I'm talking about.
Is he changing the subject?
Not really. I'll go as deep as you want this.
We don't have 30
audience.
I don't have a third. I'm talking about the ones that work in the agriculture industry.
I'm
you
explaining
can come back
to you
and we
your
can talk about the ones in the cities. I swear.
I'll do the whole answer. The illegal aliens that Joe Biden brought into our country are not full stop doing farm work. They are not. The illegal aliens he brought in from Venezuela, from Haiti, from Nicaragua, they are not doing farm work. They are in our cities collecting welfare. As for the farmers, there is a guest worker program that President Trump supports. Over time as well, we will transition into automation, so we'll never have to have this conversation ever again. But there's no universe in which this nation is going to allow the previous president to flood our nation with millions and millions of illegal aliens who just get to stay here.
I think that is a totally reasonable answer, and I really think that we should start asking people about farm labor and cheap labor, and they're using that as a defense. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize we were in the 1850s again. Okay, so you have no problem with exploiting people as long as they're out picking your food. Okay, I got it. I just want to understand where you're coming from, because that is what they're arguing.
It's amazing, too. Like, the media really hates Donald Trump. I'm not breaking news with that. But they may hate Stephen Miller more. They can't stand him. Yeah. And, I will say, you might not agree with Stephen Miller's opinion on these things. He knows this stuff really well. I mean, you're not going to, he knows immigration issues. These are the issues that got him to the position he's in. And you're not going to get on there and stump him on that stuff.
And I think everyone needs to learn from what this administration is saying. What they've been saying for the last couple of days is, are you okay? I just want to be on the record with you. Are you okay saying that we should exploit people for cheaper prices? Because it puts the Democrats where they have always been since the 1800s. Yes, it's going to affect our life if we get rid of these slaves. Yes, it's going to affect my lawn care prices. It's going to affect my food prices, my orange prices. Okay, that's fine. I just want to make sure that I understand clearly that is where you stand, because then we can take a conversation honestly now, and we can talk about two things. Is that right for you to think that, or does that kind of put you back into the old-timey days with slavery?
Because even if it's one of those things that even if it made the prices go up slightly, it would be the type of thing that I think Americans would be okay with. They didn't like the slavery thing. I think we're off of that bandwagon. So, and it's different than, because I have an Apple product. Okay, I have Apple products in my house. I know those are made by slaves. I hate that. But it's the best product, and how I justify it in my head, and this is exactly the thing they did in the 1800s as well. I justify it in my head as, well, I'll never be able to change China. We're not going to change China, and we're working to change China in any way we can. But Also, yeah.
So
context also matters there. I mean, a lot of the jobs that again, slavery, it was a specific thing.
Yes.
We compare a lot of things to slavery. To be clear, even illegal immigrants working here are not slaves.
No,
typically. Some of them are.
They're not.
Some of them are.
But
probably,
it is still exploitation of people for cheaper prices.
And I will say, especially when you're talking about China and products in other countries, you have to put context into it. You know, the pay that they get there, if it were here, would be terrible. If it's there, lots of times it's the best job in the area. That's not always true, but it is something that you have to consider.
Okay, so now let's go to the new press secretary, Karoline Leavitt. She was, I thought, really, really good yesterday. She did seem just a little nervous, but I mean, wouldn't you're walking into a Shark Tank for your first day?
First day,
absolutely.
Right? You know.
But I thought she did really well. At first, she started the press conference with some breaking news about the drones. Cut 3.
And before I turn to questions, I do have news directly from the President of the United States that was just shared with me in the Oval Office. From President Trump directly, an update on the New Jersey drones. After research and study, the drones that were flying over New Jersey in large numbers were authorized to be flown by the FAA for research and various other reasons. Many of these drones were also hobbyists, recreational, and private individuals that enjoy flying drones. In time, it got worse due to curiosity. This was not the enemy. A statement from the President of the United States to start this briefing with some news.
How do you feel about that answer?
I mean, you know me. I don't.
That's where you were.
That's kind of where I was. Kind of where I figured it would land. Now, those are words directly from President Trump's mouth. I don't know why he'd lie about it, and
I don't think he would.
I don't think he would. So, I'm not shocked by that where that lands.
I'm not satisfied, and I know President Trump is not satisfied with these things either. That's a good opening statement. What I'd like to see is the transparency of here are the documents from the FAA approving these things. I don't need to know what they were testing, but here's what they said. The Biden administration decided to close that down because, or not tell you about this, not spread these to the American people. I don't know why. Maybe it's they caused chaos, but they were also very incompetent on a lot of things. So I don't know why it wasn't verified. But I'd like to see the documentation. It would help because we don't trust anything anymore. I do trust Donald Trump to tell us the truth because I do believe he answers to us. I do believe that. He doesn't have an ulterior motive. I think the shooting, honestly, proved that out.
For people, I mean, you were, I wouldn't say the biggest, theorist on this, but you were concerned and asked a lot of questions.
Yeah.
There are people who are much more deeply into this than you were. What's the reaction from that side? Do they buy that? I mean, a lot of them like Trump, so they might.
I think here's where I would go in my mind is, Trump is saying that because of national security. Okay. You can't say anything else. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think you will go down a road, and that's why I say I would like to see the documentation. Just show me the documentation so we can just write these things off. We're talking to Comer in next hour, and it's the same kind of thing. I don't care if people are arrested anymore. I just want to know the truth, and I want to see it in documents. I want the proof of what was going on. I want to know who was running the White House and our country in the last 6 months.
Yeah,
I think
I'm
that
with
is
you on that.
really important.
Huge one.
Yeah.
It's like we have these big things and we just kind of stop.
Yeah.
Like there was some news on this that broke the other day, but the lab leak COVID situation.
Yeah.
Like just trying to gets away with this. Is that how this works? Like 25 million people died in the world, and we're just going to be like, oh man, remember that whole story about the pangolins? Like we're just going to kind of shrug our shoulders and let that go on. We all lost a year of our lives, and we're just going to be like, what's the big deal? I mean, I don't know exactly how you punish them, and I think part of this Trump obviously is very focused on not only punishment but also getting answers on this stuff. But like, we can't just let that go, right?
Well,
Same thing with this.
I don't think he is. I mean, with the stopping all funding on everything to make sure for 90 days, we want to make sure this is all in line with the agenda of the United States. But also, I think it was over the weekend, he stopped any communication from NIH, CDC, any of these organizations. You are not to change your website. You are not to make any statements on, hey, we just did a research study. This is nothing. You do nothing until we get a handle on what's really going on.
Yeah.
And I think that's really good.
Yeah, I'm not saying that wasn't a Trump criticism. I just know. It's a society criticism. Like, we do tend to just move on from this stuff. And, China especially here. If the foundation of all of that chaos was them letting this out of this lab, which I believe it was, there has to be ramifications for that. Yeah, Same thing with the last 6 months, and 6 months isn't long enough, but the last year and a half of the Biden administration, where we have multiple well-reported news stories saying that at least 6 people inside Joe Biden's inner circle actively hid what he was doing behind the scenes so that he could win that election. That's not okay. Something has to be done about what happened there. We need to know. I want every single text from those 6 people when they were planning that out.
I want to know. I want to know not only who ran the government, but also who actually forced him out. Mm-hmm. Who was the one that actually, was it Nancy Pelosi? Was it Kamala? Was it Barack Obama? How did that actually come down?
It's going to be incredible. I mean, someone's going to write a book about it eventually.
I'm telling you, the corruption that has happened in the last 4 years. The American people may not understand it, but they've got a pretty good gut. They knew something is really wrong. And, I think the Tulsi Gabbard D&I position, I think she's going to be the one that has the hardest time getting through. I think everything else before this was, rookies compared to what they're going to do to her. And this vote is secret. I got a problem with that. We'll get into that here in just a second. But that D&I position is, I believe, and Kash Patel's position at DOJ. Those are 2 of the most important, or FBI, the 2 of the most important positions, because you'll be able to see, and they can unlock doors. And we have a chance at a church commission, which must happen.